That really influenced the world of visual effects.
Phil's a real master of creature design and art.
John, he's that fantastic balance of the technical and creative.
Roger Guyette, tremendous eye. And Roger is at the moment doing visual effects on Episode 7, Force Awakens.
I was trying to make any sort of living I possibly could doing effects work in LA, and there was like nothing except occasional commercials. And when I was first offered this, it worked out, right? Yeah. And George would come down to LA once or twice a week, and you know, he was a very approachable guy, a very clear thinker, and had the storyboard and described kind of what he was after, and that was it.
His direction was such that encouraged you to participate. You know, he would say, "Here's what I need, but you know what you're doing, and you know, have fun with it." Very inclusive, and I had a stop motion puppet that was sitting there that I had built for my own project. And I gave him the idea because initially he was going to do the chess set with people in masks.
I just really wanted to come to America and work on movies and do all that sort of stuff. So I came to ILM in, 20 years ago, pretty much 20 years ago.
You're a rookie.
I'm a rookie.
But there were things in Star Wars that it wasn't clear to me how it was done. I remember in particular, it was the POV shot diving down into the Death Star trench. Fast and smooth move that had motion blur. And I thought, wow, these guys are smart. They're doing really forward-thinking things. And so I spent the whole day at ILM, 15-year-old kid, and it blew my mind. I ended up working with George on 3 Star Wars films.
You know, one of the amazing things about Star Wars was it was the first time that there was a youngster, meaning a non-older effects person, you know, taking the chance on trying something new with technology. And the purpose of the whole dice reflex camera system that was built was to give George these shots he wanted to dramatically tell the story, which is the camera will follow the spaceships around as they're moving. He wanted to do camera pans and stuff like that, which you can't do very well in old-time effects. So if it hadn't been for John and those guys, the whole show would have been done some other way, and it would have looked familiar when you saw it. But that kind of motion-controlled jumpiness you got at times and the confidence of the way the ships moved fooled you into seeing something you've never seen before.
You remember, like right towards the end of the production manager comes on the PA system and goes, "Congratulations, everybody. You've just spent $1 million on the visual effects."
All of the Star Wars films were highly ambitious things.
Yeah, Episode 1 was just seemed like impossible to do it.
We were
2,000
shooting
shots.
stuff on Empire. It was like, you know, a week before like the release, and it was like, "George, how's this gonna work?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do it all the time."
I had heard a story that there's 2 different theatrical releases of Empire between the 35 and the 70 millimeter release.
Right. Supposedly the first, 30 prints in 70 millimeter have got temps. They swear they were not going to send to the big cities. They were going to go in the Midwest, and they were going to replace, a few days later with the final shots. I don't know if that ever happened or not.
Yeah. This is important.
That was the hardest show I ever worked on, was Empire, by far, because we'd moved up here and we didn't have enough camera gear to make the movie.
Now fill it off the top there, you're just sitting like a zombie, Phil. Make out you're doing something.
For me, the most memorable shot, near the beginning when you're flying over what was Norway, looking down on Hoth, and you tilt down and there's a Tauntaun running.
Oh my,
with
yes,
Luke on it.
okay.
And it's like, that was an impossible shot to do. George showed me the plate and said, "Can you put the Tauntaun into this?" And I said, "No, there's no way to do this, I mean, the camera's moving and it's a real background, and we could build this as a miniature and do it, something like that, but we don't have enough time. So how are you gonna do it?" And he said, "Well, just think about it." And I go, okay. Within 15 minutes, I figured out how to do it.
Was that about the first time anybody did any tracking?
Yeah, at that level, that precise, it was the first time. That was something that I just said, oh my God. If I stopped thinking 5 seconds earlier, I never would have come up with that.
Back in '86, one of the soups asked, "What's the best effect shot ever made?" And I actually called out that shot because it's...
Mike Pat.
My boy.
Because I thought that was really significant. It didn't have that artificially created look.
All the perspective changed.
And that opened the way for, in all of Jedi, to have these space battles with explosions going off as the camera's tracking along with the spaceship.
A huge challenge that I remember on episode 1 was synthetic terrains. How are we going to make all of these backgrounds? I'd been experimenting with projection mapping.
Taking images that you'd photograph, putting them
Yeah,
on.
building a low-res CG version of that miniature and then projecting the photographs onto the geometry. And there were some shots in the pod race of terrain zipping by that I'm still very proud of today.
Well, effects have gotten so different in the tool set, and the level of sophistication that the audience is looking for is so much higher than it used to be. There was always kind of a limit, we'd get to, and computer graphics, fortunately, was coming along.
And that sort of opened that world up.
Yeah, it opened it up. But it also gave us responsibility of knowing what to do with that additional quality that we're adding to the shot, because you can finally make stuff that looks pretty darn real, but you have to know what reality is. It doesn't do it automatically.
So I think an interesting thing is when you're photographing something, I think your opportunity sometimes for happy accident is increased. When you're actually literally crafting the thing in a CG world, everything you do is contrived in some respects.
Yeah, and there can be I think a lack of creative spark in the essence of the shot when you see it. I should be reacting like I did when I was a kid. It's so phenomenal what's going on here. And when you are under the gun with something and it's got to work, and there's a possibility of accidents happening, which can be good, there's a chance of getting the lightning in the bottle.
Some of those Imperial Walker shots, Dennis would be lighting these big miniature sets. Okay, let's turn out the lights and go to lunch, and a couple of lights go off. And I was like, whoa, wait, Dennis, look at that. The lights are off of the foreground walkers. They look like they're in a cloud. Now there's these big dark shapes that are against the white background, It's like totally serendipitous,
And then if you do that for almost every shot, it totals up to something fresh and new that you haven't seen, energy of some sort. In the beginning, it was so crowded.
I was probably 17 or 18, and I was just amazed, when the ships are coming over, and it was a total game changer. I'd never seen anything of that scale before.
The experience is kind of like if you have a rubber band and a paper clip, and the Star Wars logo comes and you see the crawl. There's all this tension that's being built up, and when the Star Destroyer crosses, it's like, bing, and the movie just went.
Yeah.
Everybody just starts applauding and hooting, and that goes on all the way through the entire movie. They just really transported everybody.
If you talked about a career in visual effects, Star Wars would be right up there, wouldn't it?
It's ultimately what made me decide that I wanted to do this professionally.
The meaning of Star Wars as it became this cultural phenomenon, it was just something we kind of grew into, and we realized that we were really lucky. It was a very special, very different time.
You could put a map up of the globe, throw a dart. Wherever you went, they would have heard of Star Wars.
And you see the audience really enjoy the work that you've done, and react to it.
Right. And being a participant.
Yeah.
To be a part of it is nice. We're out of coffee here.
I'll go get the
look
coffee.
at the time. Geez, we got to get back to work.
I'll get the coffee.
Whose idea was this anyway?
I like we should do it again. Let's do it again in 10 years.